Welcome to today's class. Today shall be looking at space exploration today. Okay, in our subsequent class we've looked at how astronomers of old times were able to use their mathematical formulas, theories and observation to create a foundation for a branch of science which we call astronomy, which of course has to do with the study of what? Celestial bodies, is it not? Yes. Today now, we no longer have this method of exploring space. With the advent of technology, we now have enough sophisticated or good equipment that help us to explore and understand the solar system. Okay, not only that, we now have what we call cooperation or scientific cooperation. That is where different scientists all over the world come together instead of competition as we used to have in those days. Okay, they now come together, work together, and then they come up with ideas and share informations together. You know, in the last video, you remember you watched the history where we're having a competition scenario called space race, where every country is trying to be the first, trying to be the best. It's no longer like that in this our time now. We now have more of a cooperation and less of a competition. All right. The USSR is also known as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Okay, it was an old nation that was headed by Russia. Okay, it was forged as a result of power during the World War II and before the World War II. All right, but it's no longer in existence because they have to dissolve it. But Russia still holds strong to it, and this is one of the reasons why you see Russia, USA, they haven't challenged it today. Okay, because world power, it was like world power, it was with Russia then. During that time, they were able to send the first object into space around 1857. Okay, and this satellite was what we call Sputnik 1. All right, we call it Sputnik 1. It is 22.9 inch, okay, in diameter, and it weighs only 83.6 kilogram. It took only just about 98 minutes to orbit the Earth on its elliptical path. Remember, you see how fast it is. Okay, just 98 minutes to orbit the Earth. Are you seeing it now? So beside that, the first human to go up into space was the astronomer cosmonaut Yuri Alexeyevich Gagarin, also called Yuri Gagarin. Okay, he went on April 12, 1961, and on the 20th of July 1969, the American Neil Armstrong was the first human to walk on the moon. A moon is a natural satellite, as we have told you earlier. Okay, so we got a recap of the achievement under the Soviet Union. These are the achievements. We have Laika being the first animal in space. You have Yuri Gagarin being the first man in space. You have Valentina Tereshkova being the first woman in space. All these are all sponsored projects under the Soviet Union. All right, I remember they want to send the first object to space, which we call the Sputnik 1. Okay, but America was one of the country that made an astounding achievement in space exploration. Okay, this achievement actually transfer technological power to America. It made other countries humble themselves and say, yes, I think America is ahead of us, let's come together and work together. And that was the beginning of a cooperation of scientists, what we now have today, which we call the NASA. All right, we learn more on it as we proceed. So first, Neil Armstrong was the first human to walk on the moon. Okay, there are thousands of human-made satellites orbiting the Earth. Some of them help us to predict the weather by collecting images of the Earth from space, while others are communication satellites. Like I told you earlier, as a move from competition to cooperation, it led to a lot of development and advancement in technology. and that is why we're able to read weather before it happens. That's why we're able to make calls. That's why we're able to travel without having fear of plane crash. Okay, it's as a result of these technologies that took place. Look at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It's called NASA. All right, they have sent a lot of objects into space, which I will show to you shortly. You'll see some of the project that is going on currently. They are carrying out different research. So whenever you hear of the NASA, you know they have done so much for humanity. Okay, and it's not a one-man organization, it's a corporation. All right. Now, what do you understand by satellite? Okay, and what is the difference between a natural and an artificial satellite? Look very well. You see different objects orbiting Earth, is it not? Yes. You remember in the last class I told you that a satellite is any object that orbits a planet. Okay, we say they orbit a planet. So a satellite is a moon, a planet, or machine that orbits a planet. Do you understand? Or star in this case. But your simple definition, you say a satellite is an object that orbits a planet. Usually the word satellite refers to a machine that is what launched into space and moves around Earth or another body in space. Earth and the moon are examples of natural satellite. Thousands of artificial satellites or man-made satellite orbit Earth. So we'll talk of natural satellite, we're talking about Earth and the moon. And then of course you know your 4 moons orbiting Jupiter, which we learned that was discovered by who? Galileo Galilei. Okay, remember those are examples of what? Moon. And we have hundreds of natural moon also. Okay, just as we have thousands of man-made satellites. All right, so let's look at the Hubble telescope. Okay, the Hubble telescope is a very powerful telescope that was launched into space in 1990. This was also a project under NASA. Okay, it has taken thousands of photographs of deep space. One of its most important discoveries has been to give an estimated age for the universe, about 13 to 14 billion years. Do you see it now? Can you see the happenings that has taken place as a result of this cooperation of scientists and the advent of this NASA? This Hubble telescope now is more advanced than the one that was made by Galileo Galilei. I guess you should know that, right? Because it's in space as well. Okay, it's not on Earth. So it has helped to take up light, we call it light years. It took pictures from far distance light years. I told you light years is distance that is very far. Okay, that you cannot use the kilometer and your miles to represent again. So they were able to use that data to calculate that the universe was formed about 13 to 14 billion years ago. If you check this with what we call chronological timing, that is discoveries on Earth here on the oldest materials, okay, you discover that this value is actually true because it is much more older than the value that we got on Earth here. It means the universe actually existed before Earth was formed. All right, now we look at some facts about the Hubble Space Telescope. It is about the size of a large school bus. Okay, just imagine how a school bus is. That's how big the Hubble telescope is. Okay, it weighs about 25 or 24,500 pounds. Okay, and if we compare that weight, it is the same thing as an African bush elephant. Okay, that's how heavy it is. Okay, the Hubble gathers energy from the sun, that is, it uses solar panel. Do you understand? It gathers energy from the sun using two 25-foot solar panels. It requires much less power than one might think. Okay, so it requires much less power than you are thinking, averaging about okay, you don't need those values right now. What it actually means that a air dryer requires about. So the energy is almost like that of an air dryer, just a bit different. Okay, while a dryer is taking about 1800 watts, this machine is taking 2100 watts. Can you see the difference? The difference is not about that should give me 300, right? Just 300 watt difference. Hubble orbits the Earth at a cruising speed of about 17,000 miles per hour and takes just only 15 minutes to rotate 90 degrees. So you can compare this technology with the one that was brought by the Soviet Union. All right, you can see the difference. While I was talking about 93 minutes, it's just taking about 15 minutes to rotate 90 degrees, and that gives us 15 times 4, because the Earth is spherical. Okay, but if we can go 360 degrees, 15 times 4 will give us 60, right? So that's approximately 60 minutes that it takes to orbit the Earth completely, or less than 60 minutes. Hubble has observed locations more than 13.4 billion light years away. Are you getting it now? So just try and multiply this value with the other conversion I gave to you before. You see how powerful this equipment is. 13.4 billion light years away, meaning it has seen light that existed in the universe about 13.4 billion years ago. Astronomers using Hubble data have published more than 13,000 results, okay, making it one of the most productive scientific instruments ever built by who? NASA. You can see how important NASA has helped us, is it not? Look at the equipment, the Hubble. You can see it there. Okay, so the Hubble telescope has been up in space since 1990. The International Space Station ISS was launched in 1998. It completes 16 orbits of the Earth every day and can be seen from Earth at night. Scientists living on Earth carry out many experiments both inside and outside the ISS, right? This is another space station that was sent to space, all right? One of the things that the scientists are researching is the way living in space affects the growth of plants and the health of the human body, all right? I told you earlier that there was a time that they carried out the project on Mars, planet Mars. They are still working on it to see if life can be formed on it. So this is the space station. You can see it, ISS, all right? This is how it looks like. Now, do you think it is very important to find out more about the solar system? Do you think so? For me, I think so. The more we know about the solar system, the more we know what to do, is it not? Yes, the more we know what surrounds us, the more we know if planet Earth is the only place we can live, is it not? The more we know how we can manage planet Earth. Yes, there are many reasons why it is good to continue to find out more about the solar system. Then why do you not think that scientists want to know how the human body is affected by living in space for a long period of time? They want to know. You already know, right? Yes. They want to know that if it is good for humans to stay in space, then if we can create the environment, then why not? Me, I will go. I don't know about you. I would like to go to space and live there if it is possible. All right? So I don't know about you. If you like to go, you are going to let me know. I'm going to discuss that. I want you to watch this video and learn more. In this video, you are going to learn about. In this video, you are going to learn about, exploration today, and then you are going to learn about the research of the future. Okay, what NASA is currently, planning to do, and the research that are currently going on, and then if we can get good results from it, then planet Earth will not just be the only place that we have to live on. Okay,
to know more about space, it was important for someone to go into space. However, the problem was to overcome gravity. The Earth pulls every object towards it with a force called gravitational force. For several years, scientists tried to overcome the force of gravity. Finally, they were able to design rockets which could prevail over the force of gravity. Consequently, man successfully forayed into space. Man also manufactured special suit and boots that helped him to move, read, and speak in space. Man's conquest of space began on 4th October 1957 when the USSR launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite to circle the Earth. It was about the size of a large beach ball. In November 1957, Sputnik 2 carried the dog Laika, who became one of the first animals to go to space. Sadly, Laika died within few hours of launch due to overheating. A Soviet cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin, was the first man to go into space. He orbited the Earth on 12th April 1961. A few weeks later, Alan Shepard, in a 15-minute suborbital flight, became the second person and first American to travel into space. 8 years later, thanks to technological progress, man was able to walk on the moon. On 20th July 1969, US astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first man to step on the moon. He was accompanied by astronauts Edwin E. Aldrin Jr. and Michael Collins. Nowadays, manned spacecrafts stay in space for long periods and conduct useful experiments and carry out repair works of satellites. Russian cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman to visit space in the year 1963.
So let's take a quick look at some of the most important space missions happening in the short-term future. Beginning at number 7, the Lunar Gateway. This is a really exciting in-development space station which will eventually orbit the moon, and it will play a critical role for NASA's future missions. It will initially be able to carry a crew of 4, along with a solar-powered communications hub, a science laboratory, and holding areas for rovers and other robots. The space station will not be crewed continuously, like the ISS, and the Canadarm3 will tend to experiments and repairs when the station is vacant. Now, this station has received a little bit of criticism since it's not going to be a refueling station, and it's not actually establishing infrastructure on the moon. Nevertheless, it may actually become useful once a lunar base is established, and this will allow the station to become a rendezvous point. We get to number 6, and it's the Martian Moon's mission. So right now there are quite a few missions being planned for the Red Planet. But what about its mysterious moons? Well, the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency announced that it will collect samples from Phobos and actually do flybys of Deimos. Let's just hope that there are no alien bases there. Anyways, it plans to do this by using a robotic space probe lander and gather samples and then eventually returning the samples to Earth by 2029. So this mission is pretty difficult because the craft not only has to pull this off with a round trip, but it also needs to perform a weird kind of orbit since the moons have a relatively weak gravitational field. So if JAXA can pull this off, it would be pretty incredible. At number 5, and it's the Psyche mission. There are a handful of asteroid missions set for the next decade, but this particular journey is very unique. The asteroid Psyche appears to be a nickel-iron core of an earlier planet, and this could actually help us discover how planets are even formed, and it might even reveal some secrets about our own Earth's core. The orbiter will also utilize a new laser communication method which encodes data in photons instead of radio waves. This theoretically allows for more data volume, and it can become a good model for future communication. Another important and different asteroid mission will involve the Hera craft, and this will test whether a kinetic deflection can be used to shift the orbit of an asteroid. Due to launch in 2024, Hera will actually study a smaller asteroid, which is also the smallest asteroid visited so far. Now, the collision will be done in 2022, but Hera will arrive a couple years later and actually study how much this asteroid has deflected. And it could lead to a planetary defense system. We get to number 4, and it's the Titan mission. It was imperative to include this ambitious trip, and it would actually be nice to see NASA focus more on these types of missions, but anyways, the Dragonfly will launch in 2026 and eventually land in 2034 on the remote moon called Titan, which orbits Saturn. So yes, we are finally putting a multicopter on a different body which isn't Earth, and it will explore Titan's diverse environments, which are believed to contain organic compounds which support the basic building blocks of life. The previous Cassini mission provided usable data for a suitable landing site, and if everything goes well, the craft will actually fly more than 100 miles, which is nearly double the distance covered by all the Mars rovers combined. Once again, this will be a very challenging mission to pull off, since Titan has an extreme temperature variant along with higher pressures. But it can reveal very important answers on how life is even formed, and it may actually spark more exploration. We get to number 3, and it's the JUICE mission. The European Space Agency will be launching a Jupiter Ice Moons Explorer in just a few years, and it will arrive at its destination around 2029. It will explore Jupiter and 3 of its moons, which consist of Callisto, Ganymede, and the mysterious Europa. This explorer will study the dynamics of the moons and will hopefully detect signs of subsurface water reservoirs. Ultimately, JUICE will determine the thickness of these ice layers on these moons, and it might even detect organic compounds. Now, to me, I find Europa really interesting, and it kind of reminds me a bit of Pandora's box in the fact that we don't really know what can be contained in its oceans, but it would be pretty amazing if we just even find basic life forms. But actual exploration of this moon is going to take a underwater robotic explorer, and that's not going to happen probably for another decade. We get to a very important mission, and it's number 2, Artemis. It's hard to imagine that nearly half a century has passed since man has last stepped on the moon. Well, we are finally going back, and NASA intends to send people to the moon by 2024. Now, this program will involve the SLS rocket and the Orion spacecraft, which carries a team to the moon and back. Now, astronauts will first land on the lunar South Pole, and this will act a bit of a stepping stone for getting to Mars. Habitats, new tech, and spacecraft will all eventually exist on the moon. And if you combine this vision with the current private space race, then it's only going to be a matter of time until we see the moon as a tourist destination. Let's just hope it doesn't take another 50 years. So yes, I'm going to do something that's really obvious and get to number 1, which is the SpaceX manned mission. And this is also going to be interesting to see if one of the boldest companies in the world will actually reach Mars within 5 years. The Starship and Heavy Launch Vehicle will be the key to reaching Mars. It will become the company's front-running vehicle for not only reaching the Red Planet, but for also launching cargo into low Earth orbit. It will have a capacity of 100 metric tons, and it will launch with over 72 meganewtons of thrust, which is about twice as much compared to the iconic Saturn V. So it's going to cause massive earthquakes when it takes off. Now, the first mission to Mars is going to involve sending cargo and actually evaluate environmental factors. And then a second mission is targeted for 2024. And this will hopefully involve cargo and crew, which will also be the first steps to building a city on Mars. And I don't know about me, but I'm curious about what you guys think about living on Mars. Would you actually do it, or would you prefer to stay on Earth? So once again, thanks for watching.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned a lot from it. You now know that satellites orbiting the Earth send back important information about the weather and climate, is it not? Yes, you know that now, which are artificial satellites. Okay, and you also know that the modern scientists all over the world are learning about the solar system. You also know that, right? I also know that scientists live, work, and carry out lots of experiments on the ISS. Okay, that is the International Space Station. Okay, they are actually inside carrying out research, which I showed you. Okay, so that now brings us to the end of the class. Remember to attempt your phone game and then submit your assignment. Okay, the assignment is a bit different. It's not an upload, so you just answer the question. I'll see you in the next class. Stay safe.